Welcome to this episode of the Women in Money Cafe. And today I am joined by Julie. Hi,
Hello.
Julie. How are you? You good?
I'm good, thank you. So it's just you and me on the sofa today, isn't it?
It is. It is a little cozy chat today.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about, can we change our money mindsets? Now, your money mindset is your money story. So when we grew up, we heard lots of things said around us from our parents, our grandparents, our wider family. And those things that we learned at a young age, we generally have carried with us, and that is our money story. So I think today we're going to try and discuss, can we change it? Because sometimes those can be positive, sometimes those money stories can be negative. Now, one quote that I found, which really intrigued me, to be honest, was from the book by Morgan Housel, Psychology of Money. And it says, every person's experience with money represents 0.0000001% of the world's experience with money. But to that one person, it represents 80% of how the financial world works. Now, I just find that fascinating. What do you think, Julie?
I'm like, wow. Wow. It does give it some context, doesn't it? Or perspective, that's the word.
Yes, definitely. And I think, we believe, well, our money stories dictate everything we do with our money. And if that's 80% of our world, how we deal with it, but how many different stories are there out there, do you think, Julie?
Billions, isn't there? There's billions of stories.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, we just see our little world, and that quote just sums it up perfectly. So, do you think it's possible to change your money story?
Okay, another quote then. I think it was Henry Ford. Whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
I like that.
That's the answer from Henry Ford. But I don't know how reliable the source of information Henry Ford is. So we did do a little sanity check, and we asked Instagram, can you change your money mindset? And the response was 100% yes. So I love the positivity from Instagram.
Amazing.
And a few people messaged me off the back of that. Shall I share with you some of the things they messaged me?
Yes.
Because once they've told me, yes, you can change it, nosy me, I'm right back at them, all right? So you're saying yes. Why can we do that? One of the answers I got back is somebody was saying to me, I think as you do personal development and look into your money story and money archetypes and all that jazz, that's how you know it's a direct quote, and become more conscious of why you think like you think, you can then begin to change your behavior and your mindset. And that seems to be a theme that comes through from them, because I've got another one. I think this is from Abby. And she is saying, like, so someone that's constantly working on our bad habits, she thinks a bit of grit and passion can change any part of you. And when it comes to money, sometimes habits have to change depending on what's going on in the world, despite what we believe in. So if we're talking about the cost of living crisis, everyone has to be adaptable right now. And what's really great is she works in schools as well. I do believe she has an accountancy background. So she's taking her love of numbers and money and she's shaping young minds, which I think is bloody brilliant. And the other one I got here, I've got a deep answer from Tamsin, but she thinks changing money mindset is linked to changing your view of yourself. And it's about spending the time working on yourself, and it's proper deep work. And I know that I replied to her saying, I think you're absolutely right. I could agree with that more. It's that idea. Did I use this? I think I used this in the conversation with you yesterday, Michelle. Should we do the shortcut?
Yes, go on.
Oh, so you've got all the coaching questions that we all use, and then sometimes just we have shorthand for when coaches are talking to each other. Like, should we do the shortcut and skip all of the coaching questions? The answer is self-worth.
Yes.
The answer always seems to be self-worth. So I just think that really ties in with that idea of your idea of yourself and the deep work that you need to do. So that's what Instagram and Henry Ford have got to say about it.
The thing is, I love that. And I think from all of the responses that you had, what I sort of get from that is there is work involved. It's not it's not I'm just going to change it and then the next day you can. There has to be work involved on yourself. And when it comes to self-worth, I think one of the the sort of things that, you sort of see when you're rewriting your money story is to disassociate your self-worth with your net worth.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's quite
Yes.
powerful, isn't it? Because they're two very different things.
And they have got nothing to do with each other.
No. But it's amazing how we can use them in relation to each other to view ourselves. The work that needs to happen, you can see a coach. We are financial coaches, as you know, which is why we take a great interest in this. And I think it's quite fascinating for us because I think, Julie, when we did our training, because we actually did our training together, you go through your own journey because you have to ask yourself the questions that you be prepared to ask other people. And actually, I think for a few of us who did that course, we found that really challenging because you're pushing yourself through some things that you may not want to, again, because of those money beliefs or your money story. So really interesting to know that you can. But where would you start, Julie? Where do you think we would go?
Okay, so is this the bit where we're going to give away the trade secrets?
Yeah, I think we're going to need to.
Right, let's give away the trade secrets. Okay, so to change your mindset, like you were saying, Michelle, it's not a one-off activity. It's going to be a lifelong journey. But like you, I went through the financial coaching training, had some wow moments that blew my mind, and then went off and got myself more financial coaching afterwards. Because I thought I can't go out and be a financial coach until I've got my shit together a bit more than I do have.
Yeah.
So what we've got is we've kind of got, I wish we had a really handy, I was going to say sexy acronym, right? We don't have one of them, right? But we've got the 6 steps for you, which are ABCPP. That's what we're going to walk you through. And if you follow these steps, that can be the start of you changing your money mindset. So should we start with step 1, Michelle?
Yeah, please.
All right. It's awareness, isn't it?
Yeah. It's knowing your story, isn't it?
Yes. Talk to us more about what that means, Michelle.
So I think knowing your story and understanding why your story is the way it is. So that takes you, back to your childhood, probably. And actually related back to one of the answers where we had the person who works in the school with children. Our money story or beliefs are put in place usually when we're very younger children, around 7, they're usually set. You do learn things afterwards, but that's when you're moldable. That's when you can change that. But, for every one of us, we're in our home. We watch our mum, we watch our dad, we watch our grandparents. And that forms the basis of our money story, depending on what was said around you for money. So it's exploring, isn't it? Exploring what was said to you at that time. And then looking at who your biggest influences were. I think that's quite a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, so you've mentioned there who's around you in the family home, but it's also thinking about wider influences, be that culturally or, religiously, or just whoever is influencing you as a child. I mean, I used to have a big poster of Wham and Duran Duran on my wall, but I don't think they really influenced my money story that much.
No, but I had the same, to be fair.
Yeah. So have you got a good question for someone to ask themselves? So if you're into journaling, right, I would suggest we're gonna throw out a few questions as we go through this episode, and you might want to write these down and then journal about them. So Michelle, have you got a good question that someone could journal around to try and sort of establish this awareness and what their parts of their money story?
Yeah, I think one of the key ones, and one of the ones that really made me think when we did the training, was, what was your earliest memory of money? What was that thought? Was it, a playing situation? Was it something that happened? What is that? And it takes a while to get there, to sort of remember back to what your earliest memory was. And I think for me, I remember sort of being given money to buy sweets.
It's funny because mine is, I remember being walked presto with my gran. And this walk should maybe have only taken about 15 or 20 minutes, but it used to take an hour. because she'd stop and talk to everybody on the way. But you would put up with it because after they finished each conversation, a little old lady would put 10p in your hand. And then you'd wander along, you get a tiny bit closer to Presto, and you get another 10p.
And probably centers a bit around the same thing. You're going in and then you can pick the sweets, you pick how much you spend. I mean, this was in the days I remember having sort of 10p mixes, your penny sweets, where you could go in and decide how many you had. And did I save some for later in the week? So yeah, I think that was definitely, and I think a lot of us on the course, that was quite a similar scenario, but maybe slightly different for our children, where cash isn't quite so readily used.
All right. So it could even just be conversations you've heard about money. What did you hear about it growing up is another good one, isn't it?
Yeah, I love that one.
Yeah.
What was said around you? I mean, those common money phrases that we hear. So one, is money doesn't grow on trees. How many of us heard that?
Yeah, and you have to work hard.
Yeah.
For money.
Yeah. And I think, was it money is the root of all evil?
Yeah, I never heard that one growing up, but I know that it's definitely a commonly used phrase, hasn't it?
So all those things establish, where we are. And also, think about what lessons you learned from your parents. What did they teach you about money? Maybe when you heard them talking about their own money.
Yeah, and I think as you sort of start to do this, and if you're writing it, what happened for me, and I don't think it's the same for you, is I'm writing all these stories and I'm thinking of all these stories, and none of them seem bad or damaging. You're like, it's an innocent trip to Presto with my gran, and I come home with 60p. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
But as you start to work through that, you start to unearth what you believe about money, because I think that's another handy one to do, is just write down maybe a couple of words that you associate with money.
Yeah.
And that's when it started to take a funny turn for me. One of my words was, it's not important. I know that's not one word. But this is when you start to go into the deeper stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, because that can also trigger emotional responses, I think.
Oh, it got emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree, because, it does make you feel that way. And I think looking at those words of what money means to you is then sort of looking at, is that still true now? How does that impact in your life now?
All right. Should we move on to the next step? Should we tell them what to do next? All right. So you've done some journaling, or you've just sat there and had a cup of tea and had a think about it. The next step is, should we use me as an example? Money's not important.
Yeah.
Okay. So Jules thought money is not important. So it's taking one of those beliefs that you've found about money and asking yourself, right, how does this benefit me? Yeah. How does this serve me holding this belief?
And I think that's really key, because it's the lessons that you've learned from it, isn't it? What have you learned from it? And I think one of the others is how has that belief protected you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think because there's a temptation sometimes, I think somebody used in one of the messages about bad habits. And it's let's not put any judgment on the beliefs that you're holding, because whatever beliefs or whatever you do, there's always a benefit and there's always a challenge.
Yeah.
So if we look at something just purely in a negative light, then we're ignoring the benefits that it has. And I think we do need to acknowledge that if we're going to successfully change the mindset.
Yeah. It's got to be a weighed judgment, hasn't it? That you look at both sides, because it will have had both for you. And I think, the more we learn from that, I mean, particularly for challenges, that's probably quite harder to acknowledge.
That's interesting. I'm having a little think now.
Because I think we like to, as humans, we like to have evidence how something serves us well. So those benefits, we like to stack up that evidence that actually it does something good for us. But actually acknowledging the challenges is a little bit harder, because that's not our human nature.
I think I'm bizarre. I just found the challenges easier to come up with than the benefits. So let's not use me as a blueprint. Yeah, I think, do you know what? I wonder if the difference there is if you're coming to it with an awareness that I have this belief and I don't think it's serving me. Whereas if you come to it with, I have this belief, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, then yeah, it is going to be harder to figure out what the challenges are. So
Yeah.
what would be a good question to journal around to try and help you uncover any challenges that holding a particular money belief might have?
I think one of the ones I really like around this area is what would be possible if that belief didn't exist?
Oh, say
What
that
could,
again. That's good.
so what would be possible if this belief did not exist? What could you have done?
Oh, I see. I've gone down the rabbit hole now. If all my dodgy beliefs did not exist. Why do you think that question works so well?
I think it looks at what you potentially missed out on because of what you believe. And I don't think until you actually ask that question, you'd think you've missed out on anything. But as soon as it's asked of you, you start to sort of look at, oh, what have I missed out on? So, for example, you've got to, work hard to get money. So
Okay.
what have you missed out on? What would have been possible? Well, actually, you may not have worked as hard, but still had as much money.
I think this is one of the most powerful points in the process because it's opening up possibilities. Because sometimes we just think we're on a path and we don't know how to get off the path, or that there isn't any other way. And this just opens everything up, that now all options are on the table. You can have anything.
And that's what they say, isn't it? Money is a tool that gives you options.
Mm.
Whether regardless of what sort of level of money you have options with that money, and what you do with those, what choices you make determine. So I think being able to look deeply into why you do what you do, what could you have done if you didn't believe that, I think I know when I did the training, that was quite powerful for me.
Yeah. I think it's maybe around about this point I started crying. It was Neela. Neela, you made me cry, but you also helped me.
And it really sort of pushes you past that point of comfort. And I think that's one thing that we need to acknowledge. It's not always going to be a comfortable process.
No, I would argue if it's comfortable and it's easy, you're not doing it right. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with you. And you've got to push past your comfort zone to make those changes.
I think what I would say to the women listening is, if you got the pen and paper ready and you're writing down these questions and the processes we're describing and you're doing it yourself and it doesn't feel uncomfortable, then maybe you want to get in touch with one of us. All right. Or any financial coach. But you know what? Even grab a friend or a partner and do it together, so that there's someone there just to gently hold you accountable and just bring in a little bit extra curiosity to some of your rationale and some of your thinking.
Yeah, because I think actually having someone doing it with you, as we did when we did it, it does allow you to be more curious, because I think on our own we can, again, limit where that curiosity goes.
Oh yeah.
And it is probably the deeper curiosity and the pushing of that comfort zone that brings the magic of going, how did that work? I mean, I think one of the questions we would ask, around the challenges is if there was a guarantee of no fear of failure, what would you do?
I like that question. I use that one all the time, got to be honest.
Yeah, and I think it's lovely because it reframes it.
I think on the challenges part of the exercise, so if you're doing it with someone else, like, you need to be careful that you don't sound like an annoying 4-year-old when you do this, okay? Which, as you can guess, I quite often fail at. But if you're the one that's asking the question and you've got a response from them, it's then pause and what else? And I challenge you to do that 3 times. but you're gonna have to be really good at it, because otherwise the other person's gonna want to punch you.
And I think this was something that, at the beginning, we sort of struggled with to start with, because it's waiting for that pause, saying it, and waiting for the other person to get past the point where they do want to punch you, because you think, I've just said what I've said, and now you'll want me to say something else. But that's how we work as humans, isn't it? That's how our minds work. You need that pause time in between.
Because if they go really quiet, don't freak, right? That's where they're actually doing all the deep thinking. You get into the good bit. So don't sit there and panic and think, I shouldn't have said, and what else? If they go really quiet, it means that they're really thinking about it, and that's perfect.
And then they will say something.
Yeah.
So what comes after challenges, Julie?
All right, so we've done the ABC. I couldn't come up with this other sequential letters in the alphabet, so we're on to the 2 P's now. Okay, and the next step then is practical. Oh no, it's not. I'm on R. Ignore me. Right? We've done ABC. We're on R now, which is rewrite. So as you've gone through this, you will have discovered some of your money beliefs. And if we take my example of money is not important. Okay, so let's say you've got that, or you think the money doesn't grow on trees, or whatever one came up for you. Right now, it's about rewriting that, because at this stage in the process, you can see how it's benefited you. You can see how it's challenged you, and it's thinking about what would be another way to phrase that.
I think I found this really hard. And because to rephrase it, again, you're pushing past that comfort zone.
Yeah, because you're having to write something that you fundamentally don't believe.
Yeah. and I think that sort of stage involves an awful lot of, you have to forgive the things you've done in the past. You have to forgive yourself. We've all made mistakes. We've all made financial mistakes. I think, yes, we work in finance. We do it all the time. We make our own financial mistakes. But we have to forgive ourselves and move past that, because if you dwell on those, you won't be able to rewrite. So yeah, a bit of pushing, but then rewriting it gives you a fresh outlook.
Yeah. So I found something completely different hard about this.
Okay.
Because maybe it's just me as a person, right? So you're having to rewrite this belief. And then if you're on social media, you get all this manifestation and abundance type language. And no disrespect to the manifesting and the abundance people, but it's just not me. So people are wanting me to rewrite this money isn't important and all this flowery abundance language. Like, that's just not me. And if I write something that's not me, it's not going to stick. So I just had to make it really practical and in my voice and in words that mean something to me. So when you're rewriting it, don't feel that that it has to be written a certain way. It just has to be written in a way that means something to you.
Yeah, being true to yourself, isn't it? I think.
I could not write the universe worships me and all money is flowing towards me. That's just never going to stick in my head.
I have to agree with you on that one. So how would you rephrase or rewrite yours? That money isn't important.
I think it was along the lines of, I am important and I deserve to be financially secure.
But I like that.
There's no universe and flowing in it.
No, and I think, this is about, it has to be relatable to you. It has to be relevant to you. And it will be hard, as we've said, there is no easy way for that to be done. But to try and do that. And I think I found some of them easier, and I also found some of them quite hard to rewrite, because I was still not believing it. So how would I get past that? Because if I could write it, but if I don't believe it, how's that going to help me?
Okay, so the other thing I did then is I did morning pages for a while. If you're not familiar with it, it is, I forget the name of the book, The Artist's Way. I remember The Artist's Way. And morning pages are when you wake up in the morning, you write for 10 minutes or so. And at the end, you write your affirmation, I think it's 10 times. So I wrote it 10 times every day for about a year. But there's a shortcut, folks.
There's always a shortcut.
A shortcut. We're all about the shortcuts, making it easy on the Women and Money podcast. Okay, so you've got your rewritten belief, and you're looking at it going, yeah, that's really nice. Written it down, Julie Michelle. Know what? That's not sticking. Okay, good news. Because now we can do step 5, step 6. So it's playing around with the next couple of steps that then starts to shift your mind to start believing it and living it as if you believe it. Okay. I'm now going to move on to my P. I'm not on Blockbusters. Anybody remember Blockbusters? Never
I loved Blockbusters.
Right. So we've done A, B, C, R, and now we're on our first P, which is the practical. Okay. So we've got this new belief, and what we want to do is we want to explore practically what that means. So what does it mean for me to believe that I am important and that I deserve to be financially secure? What does that mean? So what would I do? What would I be doing differently? When would I be doing it? It's just saying, so how does your life look if you actually have this belief instead of the other one? What changes? What looks differently?
See, I love that, because that's almost visualizing how life could be. And I suppose, it's that thing, we always say, commit to small changes to make it happen. So if you do the small changes whilst visualizing what you're doing, I would say that's an easier way of achieving it. Because you're just doing small things. It's not a big change, is it? Is it one of, I can't remember which book I've read this in either, but it's, if you add a habit to an existing habit, it makes it easier.
That's Atomic Habits, James Clear. It's habit stacking, I think.
And I like that, because yes, you link something to something you do, which makes it easy. Whereas if I suddenly said I'm going to go to the gym every night this week, that's not going to happen, because I've not linked it to anything.
James Clear only wants you to do 2 minutes of exercise a day, doesn't he?
That's amazing. Yep, totally with that.
No, like you were saying, at this point, when we're getting practical, it's looking for small, simple, easy steps to start sort of embedding that belief. So I'm trying to think back what some of the things that I did. Well, up until that point, I'd just been doing algorithm saving. So what I mean is I've been letting apps like Chip and Roundups and stuff sneak my money out. That's how I saved. So I think that's when I first committed to, I'm setting a set amount of money away each month for me.
Yeah.
So it's just small steps. So we always encourage people, right? What 3 small steps could you make today to start moving towards that belief being a reality?
And I like that, because you're stating it, you're putting it out there. I think it helps if you've got someone who can help you stay accountable to that. So again, if you work with a coach or someone like that, they will help you stay accountable. They will ask you if you would like help to stay accountable, but it could be a partner, it could be a friend, just someone to check in with you, making sure that you're doing it. And I think also it's quite good to acknowledge what might get in your way of doing those steps. And thinking about it before they get in your way.
Yes.
Because as soon as they're in your way, it's a much bigger hurdle to overcome. But if you're expecting them, you can put steps in place to help with that too.
Yeah. And I don't know how many of you listen to this actually know each other. I'm going to guess some of you do. Okay. You could even set up little money mindset WhatsApp chat groups. Yeah. And sort of help each other out and share in there. And again, I love the accountability, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we help each other stay accountable for things, don't we? And that's nice, because it's a friendly way of doing it. It's not someone telling you off because you haven't done something. It's just that gentle nudge. And actually, you don't want to disappoint that person. So you kind of go, okay, I'm going to do it. I am going to do it.
Oh, are you hinting at in particular, Michelle?
I don't know, am I?
Yeah, earlier on in the week, Michelle had given me the really good idea that I had to take myself off to a garden centre for a day to do some work. I was having some serious mental blocks at work, and Michelle gave me this solution. I thought, that's great. And Wednesday morning, I woke up and I was like, shan't I? And I got a little message from Michelle, enjoy the time at the garden centre. Like, right, I'm going in, get in the car, but do it. So it just gave me that nudge to go and do the thing that was good for me.
It is. And I think also maybe, also have a consider about, you know, what would your life be like if you don't do those steps?
Mm.
What difference would that make to you? Because I think that can be quite your own accountability, isn't it, really?
Yeah, because I think there's the habit that we have, don't we, of thinking, okay, we know that something needs to change, but it all becomes one day. One day I'll do that. One day I'll do that. And that question, it takes away all the one days.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm never going to change this, and it's always going to be like this. What does that look like, and how do I feel about it?
Yeah, and I think that really helps to do it. But you'll also find, I think, as we found, as you start doing those steps or those habits, you get a bit more confidence, and it gives you a bit more.
Mm.
It pushes you along, and you go, actually, I'm doing it. Okay. Then think about maybe another 3 things you can do, which add on to that. And that's the building, isn't it? That's the work
Mm.
that comes with it, is adding on to it. Once those 3 first things have become habits, or something you're comfortable with doing, put another 3 in there just to help you push you along a bit.
Yeah, I like that.
And yeah, and you're then choosing a new money story. That's the one thing I like. You're choosing to do it. You're not being made to do it. You chose to do it.
Yeah. So we did this. That's step 5. So that was all getting really practical. So what do you need to do, and when do you need to do it, and who could help you do it? And so you remember the previous step was you had this new belief, and you're like, yeah, I've tried that on for size. I like it, but it doesn't really fit me, and I don't think I'm going to keep it on. All right. So now we've got some practical steps that you can take to start making that your reality. All right. The final step is, we're calling it purpose. And it's about the meaning. And this is where it's going to get really embedded in you. And it's like, what would it mean to you to have this new belief? Why is that important to you? And you'll maybe start off with some, I'm not going to call them superficial answers, but I'm trying to think about what I would put. Well, if I did that, it means that I would be able to retire early, I'd be able to claim a mortgage, blah, 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 stuff like that. But it's then going, yeah, but why is that important to me? And why is that important to me? Like, if you keep asking me this question, if you're skilled enough that you can keep asking me this question without me punching you, I'm not really a violent person. What you'll always come back to with me is, it always means that I can help more people.
Yeah. And that's something that is in line with your personal values.
Yeah, so you're gonna have a vision yourself of what you're here to do. Why are you here? What have you got? And
Yeah.
it's drilling down to that.
And I think when your money story is in line with your values, that's when you can create the future that you want to have, because you've got them aligned, and it is that meaning to you. You can then achieve the things that you've been setting out to do that maybe you couldn't because you had this block that had been sat there not allowing you to. And I think it's also really important to think, actually, when you get there, how are you going to celebrate? That was one we used to love asking each other. How are you going to celebrate? You think, well, I'm not going to celebrate. No, you need to celebrate because you've done the work and you're there. And you've got this future ahead of you. You've got what it means for you. But yeah, celebrate it along the way, because I think that just gives you that lovely sense of achievement.
You know who's the best at that one is Catherine. Catherine's not with us today, but she's always wanting to know how everybody's going to celebrate, because she just constantly wants to find out who else is having champagne.
Yeah.
I think she one time she caught me, she pushed me on, you celebrate. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to think of something, because I've done all the little things to celebrate. And I thought, I think we were in lockdown again. Were we? I ordered myself an afternoon tea to be delivered.
I love that.
So I sat there and had little cakes and little sandwiches all on my own one afternoon because I was celebrating something.
Yeah. And I think that's nice, because you just rewarded yourself for doing some really, really hard work. Everyone else doesn't need to know all the hard work you've done, but you can have your celebration and you can enjoy it. And then I think, with all of these things, it's then how can you continue that? How can you build on it? Because I think, we're changing our money story generally for a reason, because we want to do something else, and it's what's been holding us back. So yeah, once you've chosen your new story, you can start living your new story. And I love that. I just think that's lovely.
It is. And what I like is that you can keep changing it.
Yeah.
Just because you've picked out a new one today doesn't mean you're stuck with it. Because like you said, this is not work, I think, that ever finishes. Something might pop up for you at some point in the future. You're like, I'm going to go back and do my ABC RPP again. Where did I put that bit of paper? It's episode 50, by the way, people.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to acknowledge that we can have times where we may be doing really well on that journey and something derails you, something pushes you back, and you'll feel disappointed with yourself. But no, you can change it again. And we may, I think a lot of us have this habit, we revert to our comfort zones. So even if we're part of the way through that journey, we revert to, they revert to standard settings or factory settings. We just go back.
I know I revert to 6. You'll have to listen to the numerology episode. I'm meant to be doing things as a 7, but I will default back to 6 if I'm not paying attention.
Yeah. So it's keeping tabs on it. But don't be disappointed with yourself if you do go back to standard settings. You just got to push yourself forward. And again, that's where the accountability comes in. And you will also, I think it's also important to acknowledge that people around you will learn from what you're doing, particularly your close family, because they'll see the work that you're doing and they'll learn, particularly your children. They will learn from that. But it's also really important to not let other people's words and actions and behaviors affect what you're doing, because you will get some challenges from them for this.
I think that's a really good point, actually. Because if you've got kids, this is amazing to do this work for yourself, because your kids will benefit. But other adults around you might not be as receptive to the changes that you experience.
And yeah, that resistance may result in maybe a little bit of sabotage, not meaning to, but a little bit. And it can be difficult, but just keep believing in yourself and keep pushing forward with the process. I think the process is key.
Yeah, because Instagram 100% believes you can do this.
So,
it's not just Instagram, we believe you can as well.
We believe you, and everything that you read about it also says it. I did a Google search last night as well.
All right, so it's Google, both Google and Instagram.
Yeah, and the Google was, yes, you can.
That's definitive then, isn't it?
And every article that came up underneath was yes. And it had a very similar process to what we've talked about today.
Were they all written by financial coaches, though? Come on.
Maybe the top 10, but it does give you reassurance that, yes, you can. And I think that's so if we can help steer you in that direction, if you're a bit stuck, let us know. Or Google or Instagram. There's clearly some bits out there you can have a look at.
That's where we get all our wisdom.
So I think, is there any bits that we've missed, Julie, do you think?
No, I think we've covered quite a lot of ground there. So we've given you 6 steps. All right. We've given you some questions to ask yourself along the way. What we'll probably do is put a little link in the show notes to different journaling questions for each of the steps for you to work through. And we'll put a link to Morgan Housel's Psychology of Money book as well, and James Clear's Atomic Habits.
Yeah, amazing books. And I think it just shows you what's possible with the minds. So I thought something we could finish on, because I know Julie's quite up with her apps, you see. It's something I'm not very good at. So my phone's got apps and I don't tend to use them properly, but I know Julie's really good and I think she's got one she might want to share with us today.
Wow. I've got an app for you, people. So I think the last app we mentioned was Sprive. And Sprive got really excited that we've been talking about them. So if you haven't checked out Sprive already, go and have a look at it, because we love it. But today I'm talking to you about another app, and this one is called Lumio. So that's spelled Lumio. So Lumio is a bit like, if you've heard of Emma, Money Dashboard, YNAB, all those kind of things. They're like budgeting, spendy app type things. So I have played with all of them at some point or another. In the end, I just revert to using Starling because sometimes they are throwing so much data at you.
Yeah.
It's trying to figure out what does it actually mean. So Lumio, I like. It has a really clean user interface and it is not chucking mountains of data at you. And the live feeds from your bank accounts, your investments seem to refresh a lot quicker than any of the other apps that I've used in the past as well. But I'm not using Lumio for the intention of which it was designed. I've spoken to Lumio and they're okay with this.
Okay.
Right? So it does do all of those things. But the thing I really like about Lumio is when you first open it up, okay, on that first page at the very top, there's a chart, there's a graph, and it is telling you your net worth.
I love that.
It's pulling in information from my pension, from my ISA, from my stocks, from my cash, from my savings, bizarrely also from my EIS, all my investments and everything. And it's all pulled into that one number. I can see it at the top when I clearly log in. Now, I was saying to Michelle, if you'd asked me a couple of months ago, what's my net worth? They're like, give me an hour. I'll come back to you, grab a pen and bit of paper and laptop. But at Lumio, you just log in and there's your net worth. And I think that's a really important figure to know. I know that I always think that's a bit of an American thing. But now I realize you've got that many financial arrangements that sometimes you don't realize just how much you've got. And it's a nice way to be able to chart your progress. And I think when we are aware of that and we haven't got our heads stuck in the sand about things or thinking one day, then it delivers better financial outcomes for us. So that's my top tip for this week. Go and check out the Lumio app.
I love that. And I think it's something, as you say, we haven't been that aware of. Over here, it was a big US thing, wasn't it? But it is quite a powerful number to see because people often underestimate their net worth.
Yeah. I think just knowing what it is, even if yours is a negative number, right? Because you're starting out in your working life and all you've got is student loans. It's knowing that every decision that you make with your money each day influences that number. And it might just change some of those habits that you've got, again, helping you with your money mindset.
No, absolutely love that. So definitely have a go. I'm going to have a look at it later. And as you know, I am so app phobic. That will be quite interesting for me. So no, it's been lovely to talk this through with you today, Gina. I think it's really, it's a powerful subject. And I think it's something that we just need to have in the back of our minds that we can make changes. So thank you very much today.
All right. No, thank you, Michelle. It's been an absolute pleasure sitting on the sofa having a chat with you.
And we look forward to seeing you all again in another episode.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.